Have you ever met someone who talks like their future is already guaranteed? They have big dreams. They talk about money, freedom, success, a better body, a better life, a different version of themselves. They can describe it perfectly. The house they want, the business they want to build, the person they want to become, the respect they want from people who once doubted them. And when they talk about it, they sound so convincing that for a moment, you almost believe they are already on their way. But then weeks pass, months pass, sometimes years pass, and nothing really changes. They are still planning, still thinking, still waiting, still saying, "I'm going to start soon." And here is the strange part. They are not always lazy. Some of them are intelligent. Some of them are talented. Some of them genuinely want a better life. But psychologically, there is a huge difference between loving the idea of success and being willing to live the reality of it. And that difference explains why so many people stay stuck in a fantasy version of their future, while their real life quietly stays the same. Because success, in the imagination, is beautiful. It is clean. It is exciting. It gives you identity. It makes you feel special. But success in reality is often boring, repetitive, uncomfortable, lonely, and invisible. And most people don't actually quit on their dreams because the dream is impossible. They quit because the process does not feel like the dream. That is where the psychology begins. 1. They are addicted to the emotional high of potential. Potential is one of the most seductive feelings in the world. When someone believes they could become successful, their brain gets a small reward just from imagining it. They picture themselves finally proving people wrong. They imagine the compliments, the freedom, the transformation, the moment where everyone realizes they were underestimated. And that mental movie feels good. It gives them dopamine without requiring action. Psychologically, this is dangerous because the brain does not always separate imagined progress from real progress as clearly as we think. When you spend enough time visualizing the person you could become, you can start feeling emotionally connected to that identity before you have earned it. You are not successful yet, but you feel like a future successful person. You are not disciplined yet, but you feel like someone with big plans. You are not building anything yet, but you feel different from ordinary people because your dreams are bigger than theirs. And that feeling becomes addictive. They do not love the work. They love the version of themselves that exists in their imagination. The successful one, the admired one, the one who finally made it. And because that imagined identity feels so good, the real work starts to feel like an interruption. Because the real work is not glamorous. The real work is sitting alone when nobody is clapping. The real work is failing quietly. The real work is doing the same boring thing again when your motivation has disappeared. The real work does not make you feel special. It makes you feel small. And that is exactly why many people avoid it. They do not want to risk losing the beautiful fantasy. Because as long as they never truly start, the dream can remain perfect. 2. They confuse wanting success with being ready for success. A lot of people think desire is proof. They think because they want something badly, they must be serious about it. But wanting is not the same as being prepared. Wanting a fit body is not the same as being willing to train when you are tired. Wanting money is not the same as learning boring skills, managing risk, and staying consistent for years. Wanting a YouTube channel is not the same as making videos when nobody watches. Wanting respect is not the same as becoming the kind of person who earns it quietly. The mind loves the reward, but it often rejects the cost. And this is where people deceive themselves. They say, "I want success." But what they really mean is, "I want the emotional result of success." They want confidence. They want freedom. They want recognition. They want proof that they were right about themselves. But when success asks for sacrifice, patience, humility, rejection, and repetition, suddenly the desire becomes weaker. Because the fantasy was about receiving, The process is about becoming, and becoming is uncomfortable. Psychology shows that people often overestimate how motivated they will feel in the future. They imagine a future version of themselves who will magically be more disciplined, more focused, more confident, more ready. So they postpone action. They tell themselves, I will start when I feel more prepared, when life calms down, when I have more time, when I understand everything, when I feel inspired again. But the problem is that readiness usually comes after action, not before it. Confidence is not something you wait for. It is something your brain builds after you survive discomfort enough times. People who avoid the work are often waiting for a version of themselves that can only be created by doing the work. That is the trap. They are waiting to become someone before they act like that person. But identity does not change through thinking. It changes through repeated evidence. Every time you do what you said you would do, your brain receives evidence. I am someone who follows through. Every time you avoid it, your brain receives different evidence. I am someone who only talks. And over time, your identity becomes a collection of your repeated actions, not your repeated dreams. 3. They are secretly protecting their self-image. This is one of the deepest reasons people avoid effort. On the surface, it looks like procrastination, but underneath it is often self-protection. Because if you never truly try, you never have to find out whether you are as capable as you imagined. That sounds painful, but it is true. As long as the dream stays in your head, you can believe anything about yourself. You can believe you are talented. You can believe you are special. You can believe you would succeed if you really tried. But the moment you take real action, reality starts giving feedback, and feedback can hurt. Your first video might get no views. Your first business might fail. Your first attempt might look embarrassing. Your first month of discipline might reveal how inconsistent you actually are. And for some people, that is unbearable. Not because they are weak, but because their dream has become part of their identity. If the dream fails, it does not feel like the project failed. It feels like they failed. So they stay in the safest place possible. Preparation, planning, talking, researching, waiting. Because in the planning phase, you can still feel intelligent. You can still feel talented. You can still feel like someone with a big future. No one can judge the work because the work does not exist yet. No one can criticize the result because there is no result yet. And no one can prove you wrong because you have not entered the arena. Psychologists sometimes describe this through self-handicapping. It is when people create excuses or avoid full effort so they can protect their ego from failure. If they do not try, they can say, I could have succeeded if I really gave it my all. That sentence protects them, but it also imprisons them. Because a person who is always protecting their self-image can never fully build their real self. Success requires you to tolerate being bad at something before you become good. And many people do not fear hard work as much as they fear being seen at the beginning. They want the final version of success, but they do not want the humiliation of being a beginner. 4. They romanticize the outcome and underestimate the repetition. In movies, success is shown as a montage, a few dramatic scenes. A person wakes up early, they train, they struggle, they cry once, they work late, music plays, then suddenly they win. But real life does not move like a montage. Real life is mostly repetition, the same habit, the same practice, the same boring improvement, the same uncomfortable decision made again and again when no one is watching. And this is where the fantasy breaks, because people who love the idea of success are usually emotionally attached to peak moments. The launch, the applause, the transformation, the big result, the moment everyone notices. But success is not built in peak moments. It is built in ordinary moments that feel too small to matter. Writing when you do not feel inspired, saving money when no one praises you, practicing a skill when you still look average, going to the gym when your body has not changed yet, posting a video when the last one failed, trying again when your ego wants to disappear. The brain hates this at first because repetition feels unrewarding. There is no instant emotional payoff. And if someone is used to getting motivation from fantasy, the real process feels painfully slow. They start thinking, maybe this is not for me. But usually the problem is not that the goal is wrong. The problem is that they expected the process to feel like the result. It never does. The process of becoming successful often feels like being unsuccessful for a very long time while continuing anyway. And that requires a different kind of personality. Not the person who gets excited easily, but the person who can keep going after excitement leaves. That is why discipline matters more than motivation. Motivation starts things. Discipline survives the boring middle, and the boring middle is where most dreams die. 5, they are in love with identity, not responsibility. There is a certain social pleasure in saying, I'm building something. I'm working on myself. I'm going to be successful. I have big plans. These statements give people an identity. They make a person feel ambitious, different, above average, like they are not like everyone else. And sometimes the identity becomes more attractive than the responsibility. A person may like being seen as a future entrepreneur more than actually serving customers. They may like being seen as creative more than actually finishing creative work. They may like being seen as disciplined more than waking up early when they do not want to. They may like the image of being successful more than the character required to become successful. And social media makes this worse because now people can perform ambition. They can post quotes, watch motivational videos, talk about mindset, create vision boards, follow successful people, consume success content all day, and feel like they are part of the world of achievement without actually producing anything. This creates an illusion of movement. Their mind is surrounded by success, but their behavior is still the same. They are consuming the atmosphere of success, not creating the evidence of it. And psychologically, this can become a substitute for action because the brain starts to associate learning about success with moving toward success. But information is not transformation. Knowing what to do is not the same as becoming the person who does it. At some point, more information becomes avoidance. Another podcast, another video, another book, another plan, another perfect strategy. But deep down, they already know the next step. They are just afraid of the version of themselves that will be revealed when they take it. 6, they cannot tolerate the emotional discomfort of consistency. People think consistency is about time management, but often consistency is about emotion management. Can you act when you feel bored? Can you act when you feel insecure? Can you act when you feel invisible? Can you act when the result is not coming fast enough? Can you act when your mood is not cooperating? That is the real test. Most people do not fail because they do not have time. They fail because the work creates emotions they do not want to feel. Frustration, doubt, embarrassment, impatience, loneliness, fear of judgment, fear that they are wasting their time. And when those emotions appear, the brain looks for relief. Scrolling gives relief. Planning gives relief. Talking about the dream gives relief. Starting over gives relief. Quitting quietly gives relief. But relief is not growth. Relief often keeps you exactly where you are. This is why people restart so often. They start a goal, feel discomfort, escape, then later return to the fantasy and start again. New notebook, new plan, new energy, new identity. Same pattern. Because the problem was never the plan. The problem was their inability to stay with discomfort long enough for the plan to work. Success requires emotional endurance, not just intelligence, not just talent, not just desire. You have to keep showing up while your brain is offering you every possible excuse to stop. And for people who love the idea of success, this is the part they did not imagine. They imagined confidence. They did not imagine confusion. They imagined admiration. They did not imagine silence. They imagined winning. They did not imagine hundreds of days where nothing looks like it is working. But that is where success is built, in the emotional space between effort and visible results. So what does all of this mean? It means that people who love the idea of success but avoid the work are not necessarily hopeless, but they are caught in a psychological conflict. One part of them wants transformation, another part wants protection, one part wants the future, another part wants the comfort of staying familiar. One part dreams of becoming someone new, another part is terrified of the pain required to prove it. And until they understand that conflict, they will keep mistaking imagination for ambition. But imagination is not ambition. Ambition is not what you say you want. Ambition is what you are willing to suffer for consistently. That sounds harsh, but it is also freeing because it means you do not need to feel inspired every day. You do not need to feel ready. You do not need to feel confident. You do not need the perfect plan. You need one honest action repeated long enough to become evidence. The person you want to become is not waiting in your imagination. They are built through small, boring, uncomfortable promises kept in real life. And maybe the most painful truth is this. Your dream does not need more admiration from you. It does not need more talking, more planning, more imagining, more perfect timing. It needs proof. Because at some point, the future version of you stops being inspired by your dreams and starts waiting for your discipline. So if you are someone who loves the idea of success but keeps avoiding the work, you are not broken. But you are being asked to choose. Do you want the comfort of potential, or do you want the discomfort of becoming? Because potential feels beautiful, but action is what makes it real. And the life you keep imagining will not arrive because you thought about it deeply. It will arrive when your daily behavior finally matches your future identity. If this video made you uncomfortable, that might be a good thing. Sometimes discomfort is the first honest sign that something in you is ready to change. Subscribe if you want more deep dives into the psychology behind human behavior. And tell me in the comments, are you building your dream or are you still just emotionally attached to the idea of it?